Scottish girl is hard, dying. I was just reminiscing about my childhood. You see, a long time ago, back in Scotland, when I was just a little Scots girl, and I used to live with my grandfather Scotty. There was a time when my grandfather Scotty, right? He used to own a tattoo parlor. And now, not a lot of people used to own tattoo parlors back then, but he did. So my grandfather Scotty had this great big tattoo parlor with all them fancy tattoos of swordsmen and fancy knives and Scottish hats. He had a really good variety of tattoos. All Scottish though. Nevertheless, one day, guess who went and walked right into his tattoo parlor? You wouldn't believe it if I told you. But I'm gonna have to tell you anyway. You see, Sean Connery walked right into my grandfather Scotty's tattoo parlor. Oh no, I couldn't believe my eyes, but it was him. It really was. You see what happened, right? Sean Connery wanted a really unique Scottish kind of tattoo on his arm. So, he asked my grandfather Scotty to tattoo Scotland forever. Not forever. Forever. Onto his arm. If it was forever, it might not be forever. But nevertheless, Grandfather Scotty obliged Sean Connery and was only too happy to tattoo Scotland forever on Sean Connery's arm. And while he was tattooing the tattoo on Connery's arm, all them Scottish people, far and wide, all them Scottish people from the lowlands and all them Scottish people from the highlands all came and congregated into Grandfather Scotty's tattoo parlor. You see, they didn't come to get any tattoos, but they came because they all wanted to watch Sean Connery. You see, not a lot of celebrities come by, so when a celebrity comes by, all of them, everybody just comes and sits and stares at the celebrity. Sometimes they bring their own stools, you know what I mean? Nevertheless, Sean Connery was just sitting like this on a big Scottish stool while my grandfather Scotty was tattooing his arm, Scotland forever. So while Sean Connery was sitting like this, all them Scottish people were just sitting like this, all in front of him, all staring at him. And I must tell you, Sean Connery probably thought he was the King of Scotland right then, because he felt really good. His ego was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. When my grandfather Scotty, right, finished tattooing Scotland forever on his arm, Sean Connery was really happy, and he held it up to all them Scottish folks, and he said, "Look at me, my Scotland forever tattoo is beautiful. What do you think of it?" And there, sitting in the audience, was a pretty young lady. She was just staring at the tattoos, and Sean Connery pointed at her and said, "What do you think of it?" And the young lady, she was a really nice young girl. She wasn't sure what to do, but she stared at the tattoo, and then she started laughing. She said to Sean Connery, "What you got to go and put all that ink on your arm for? Don't you think your arm looks a little bit dirty now? You got all kinds of things on your arm. If you really wanted Scotland to be forever, why don't you just carry a little flag? Or why don't you carry a little banner and wave it stop. Sean Connery said, 'cause she's a woman and I put her right in her place. And that's the way. She's got to have some respect for me, 'cause I'm Sean Connery, also known as James Bond. Ooh, my grandfather Scotty did not like that one bit. In fact, he was really angry, and he told Sean Connery, I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of Bond you are. I don't care how many bonds you got with all them rich folks in Hollywood. I don't care about that kind of rich people bonds. You'd have no right to go and treat a lady like that. You've got no right to go and punch a lady like that. Sean Connery wasn't feeling too good about that because he wasn't used to anybody speaking up against him. So he told Grandfather Scotty, why don't you shut your mouth? He told my Grandfather Scotty. At this point, my Grandfather Scotty was in no mood for any kind of nonsense, and my Grandfather Scotty gave Sean Connery a good kick in his behind. Ooh, and Sean Connery went like that, and he was really angry. And I, as a little Scots girl, I too was not feeling too happy because I didn't think it was a good idea for Sean Connery to push that young lady like that on the floor. So I, as a little Scots girl, I jumped on Sean Connery's head and I started pulling out his hair. I know this was before when he had hair on his head, not now when he's completely bald. But anyway, I jumped on his head and I started pulling on his hair like that. Ooh, and Sean Connery didn't know what to do. He had to get me off his back, and then at the same time he had to face Grandfather Scotty. So then Grandfather Scotty he was brave, and he took that needle and again he stabbed it into Sean Connery's arm. And Sean Connery was not feeling too good about that. He kind of fell. He just fell like a big mass of flesh. It seems like Sean Connery really can't put up a whole lot of resistance if you give him a really good stab with a tattoo needle. Nevertheless, Sean Connery fell to the floor and everybody was in they couldn't believe that Grandfather Scotty knocked a celebrity out onto the floor. They couldn't believe that the little Scots girl pulled out all the hair from a celebrity, making him pure raving bald. Ooh, it was a spectacle to behold. Then my Grandfather Scotty, he went over to that young lady who was really quite shocked at what was going on. She just didn't know what to do. And he picked her up and he put her on a chair and he said, you got to be all right. Don't worry about all them people that want to push you down. And then he gave the young lady a little bit of Scottish whiskey and she felt better. In fact, then Grandfather Scotty became the real celebrity and nobody cared about Sean Connery and his little tattoo that said Scotland Forever. Nobody seemed to really care about his little tattoo that said Scotland Forever because everybody knew that it was Grandfather Scotty that was the true brave Scotsman. Because you see, no matter how big and huge and powerful he was, he would never ever raise his fist against a woman. So everybody here in Scotland who came to see Sean Connery picked up Grandfather Scotty and raised him up high. And Sean Connery, well, he was still on the floor, but Grandfather Scotty was feeling really good and he was carried by all them Scottish masses and it was a huge parade and they even carried me, little Scots girl. Actually, only one person needed to carry me because I was so small, but a lot of people had to carry Grandfather Scotty, so they carried us and we went down the streets of Scotland parading. Oh, long live Grandfather Scotty! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Long live Grandfather Scotty! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! And pretty much that was the day. That was the day. Oh, it was such a lovely day because Grandfather Scotty, he made all them English newspapers. He made all them Scottish newspapers. In fact, he even landed all them newspapers all over the world. And Grandfather Scotty was the true hero of the day. I don't really know what happened to Sean Connery. Everybody ignored him. And when the parade was over, he was nowhere to be found. Hail to Grandfather Scotty!
Do do